I forgot to put this in the original draft. Spoiler warning, do not watch this if you don't want any of these stories to possibly be spoiled.
Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and I will be ranking the top 40 best choices stories. And I am able to be a little subjective as I did not put my personal favorite at number 1 like I wanted to. If you've been a fan of choices for a while, you might be able to guess what number 1 will probably be, as it is considered among the fandom to be the best work that Choices has put out. Choices has fallen from grace. It's pretty much AI slop now and it breaks my heart. But Choices is the top dog when it comes to these types of apps. The only other app that is probably just as popular or that it will never beat is Episode, but Episode is very different. We all know how it's different. I'm not going to get into it. Choices rightfully deserve its spot at the top of the rank due to its good storytelling and good art style and good characters. It wasn't as crappy or childish or smutty. And it didn't need to be smutty. The other apps can be smutty. They do that smut better. The smut here is still pretty tame compared to those other apps. Like Scripps, oh my god, it's just straight up porn there. Like, no, for real, there's actually a story where you become a porn star. Yet they still don't show breasts. Make it make sense. But because Choices is at the top, I think that's why they're so comfortable now with releasing mediocre AI stories. Because they no longer need to try. They've made their money. They know they're at the top. They know it's going to be a long time until they're beaten. So now all we can do is just hope and pray we get a good story and then go read the old good stories. This started off as so many things. It was going to be just top 10 best, but then I was like, oh, I want to talk about way more. So then it was top 20 or 30 best. And I was like, I've come this far. Let's just do all of them worst to best. And then I realized I am not doing that. So then I was going to do a top 10 or 20, like most underrated, most disappointing, and it's just too much work for me, you guys. I got things to do. I don't get paid for this. Maybe one day I can talk about the more disappointing, awful, horrible, overrated books. But for now, I'll just be talking about these 40 and like 3 or 4 honorable mentions. Again, this is only my second video doing something like this. I do think it looks a little better than the first video I did, which sucks because like I put my heart and soul into that one. And then by the end result looks so bad. But I'm still not used to editing and recording, and I'm still only using my phone. I can't afford a microphone. I need to find a better editing app, but they're all shit. Honestly, just think of this video as being made to view on your phone rather than your TV. My first video was the opposite, and it looks so bad. I was going to try to fix it, but after the first few fixing, I realized it was going to take weeks because I used an ungodly amount of pictures and videos, and same here. But just be patient, you know. I'm not a successful YouTuber. I'm an amateur, so it's very amateurish. I said this last time, but if you say anything negative about me, you know, that's your opinion, you have your right to it, but I will jump off a bridge. So, have fun being charged with my murder. Despite ranking 40 and a few honorable mentions, there's still like 30 or 40 other books to talk about. So I know it seems like a lot, but it's not everything. There's so many books that I haven't even mentioned in this at all. I really wanted to rank these worst to best, but there's over 70 or 80 stories, and I'm not putting myself through reading all of this shit. I also wanted to do a top 10 or 20 choices stories, but I would only be able to talk about the stories I have read, because I'm not going to intentionally read bad stories that are all about sex. I'm not reading Surrender. I'm not reading The Nanny Affair. I refuse to ever since I learned that we can't get with Robin or Jordan. Officially. I'm not reading Best Served Hot or Dirty Little Secrets. I'm not reading Roommates with Benefits or Guarded or Hot Shot. I heard that one isn't that bad, but I read Icebreaker. I'm good. I'm not reading Wolf Bride or Alpha Boardroom, and I don't want to read Bitten either. I'm not reading The Billionaire's Baby when I read Baby Bump. I don't need to read The Duchess Affair when I read Ship of Dreams. Ugh. I don't want to read a cougar story, and I don't want to read this cowboy story when I have this cowboy story. I don't want to read the very misleading First Comes Love and the MC being a pick-me, or Into the Woods with that ugly-ass AI art, no offense to the real guy it's based off of. And I actually did read parts of Witness the Bodyguard Romance when it came out. It's bad, but the love interest is actually really good, too good for this story in this MC. What's really cool is that you can actually pick their hairstyle, and I wish they did that more. The MC is one of the worst in Choices history. You have to pay to not be an asshole, so I highly recommend going into this with the idea of making the MC the worst person ever. It makes it more camp. But yeah, it's so greedy. Someone said this one book has more diamond options for the stupidest crap than all of the Crown and the Flame books combined. But yeah, I'm not putting myself through all of that. I only have so much time, especially on this earth, to be wasting it reading all of this. I will mention a few. I have not read any of these books, but I really want to. And these are books I've mostly heard good things about, so I can't put them on the list because I haven't read them, but they're on the list in spirit because apparently they are at least some good. Other than the AI cover, I'm shocked it took this long to do a Greek mythology. I wish this girl wasn't your sister, one of the prettiest models I've seen, but I've heard good things about it. Other than the AI cover, I've heard decent things, good characters, but a lesser version of the Elementalist. I've heard Guinevere is good, but boring, with good love interests. I've heard it's a good fantasy story with a fleshed out love interest, but a rushed ending. That seemed to happen a lot. I would like to check this one out. I like Little Red Riding Hood stories. I think it's another good fairy tale from what I've heard. Other than the AI cover and its AI kids, I've heard it's fun and very lighthearted. A good break from everything else they've been releasing lately. Laws of Attraction. I really want to read this. I heard the MC can be kind of a hoe. I kind of like it when the MC can hoe around, but I heard it's got good law elements, but I need to dedicate myself to actually reading it. I can't believe I haven't read Crimes of Passion. I heard it's like the most wanted of the new era. Like I'm pretty sure it's good, but I don't like the way any of the love interest designs look, and that's kind of like a big deal breaker for me. But I would go with this girl, and I would probably play as a guy. But I heard that in book 3, even if you play as a guy, it feels like you're playing as a girl, so it's very girl MC coded. Yeah, and that's such a shame for all the guy players. But I have heard the story is good. In Inheritance, I heard this has a roles reversed in that the love interest is this doe-eyed, new to the environment, young, naive person, while you, the MC, are the experienced, cool, and wise worker. It's nice to see like the roles reversed and to see what our love interest exactly see in us as the MC. I don't know if I explained that correctly, but I heard it's well written. The Phantom Agent is also one I haven't read yet. I heard it's cool and fresh, but it's a jumbled mess, and I heard it has a lackluster villain. I already know who the villain is. It was spoiled for me. I don't want to be let down. Mother of the Year, I read a few scenes, and I decided it wasn't for me, but apparently it's really wholesome, and the daughter is very sweet and cute, but this came out, like, right when the golden era was ending, so people hated it, but now people like it. All I've heard about Slow Burn is that it's like America's Most Eligible, but with cooking, and one of the love interests is really cute. It reminds me of a story in Journeys. I have a few Journeys episodes uploaded on my channel. But I've also heard it can be boring, hence slow in the title, but well written. With A Night in New York, Reddit said it had the heart and soul of a pre-AI Choices, and that's just beautiful to me. And I've heard it's good and has good fantasy elements. I would like to check out Kindred. Anyway, I heard the siblings are really cool. A lot of the siblings and Choices are annoying as fuck, but I heard these girls are cool. I took a look at what the love interests look like, and they're all so cute. I'm gonna have trouble choosing what I want them to look like. I also heard that the ending is rushed, but overall has good pacing. I told you guys, you're gonna hear that a lot. I would like to read main character energy. I heard it's a short story and it's very funny and witty apparently, and it has good callbacks to the older stories. I read a few scenes in Rising Tides. I saw mixed reviews. It has a good message and some decent love interest, but it's very boring and has the wrong villain and apparently a very annoying sister. The Unexpected Harris. This is also one I only read a few scenes in. So it's a slow burner apparently, and it has a good solid plot and a mystery. But it's not as good as other mysteries, but it has a good twist. I think Francis should have been a love interest though, but I do like Hugh. I will finish this one day, but it's been spoiled for me.
But overall, I do like the twist that I heard of, despite the story not being as good as, like, Veil of Secrets.
I'm about to say something that might piss some of you off. I have not read The Royal Romance. When I first started playing Choices, I think book 3 was coming out, but it didn't seem like it was for me, so I focused on a bunch of other stories, and then by the time I stopped playing Choices, The Royal Heir was coming out, and then I blink and the book 3 of The Royal Heir is coming out. And at that point, I think we had all thought the whole series would be over, but no. But now it's like 6 or 7 books, and I think even a side story, and it just seems so overwhelming to start. And if I did, I don't know if I'm going to choose Drake or Maxwell. I have no clue how I'm going to choose between those two. I have read chapter 1 of each story, though, each book, and from what I did read, it was fine. The reason I read chapter 1 of each book is because back then I would diamond farm. I'd read every first chapter of every book to get all the diamonds, but I haven't read all of it, or even the first book, so I can't put it on the list, but it's on the list in spirit. I did hear that they updated the MC's underwear, though. I remember back then she had ugly granny panties, and now she's like got cool lingerie. I'll never forget that ugly bra, though. Let's get on with the list, starting with number 40. This is very trashy, but fun. Courtney is especially fun to play as. I remember when this came out, it was so hated because people thought it was so not classy. I mean, just look at this cover. I like it because they finally let me hook up with Lena, but not really Lena. The love interests are, again, okay. They're meh, but it was very low class at times. But now there's worse. Back then, when I saw the cover, I knew this was going to be Choice's version of The Hangover, and I love The Hangover and Tigers, despite the tiger barely being in this at all. How misleading. A tiger made my number 1 spot on my last list, by the way. But don't go into this trying to take it seriously. Courtney reminds me of Brooke from Love Hacks, but if she was on cocaine. I kind of wish I could just romance her instead of play her, but her smile will forever freak me out. I thought this was going to be like Bachelorette Party, but I would say it's more like Rules of Engagement. I am not a part of the demographic that this was targeted to, but it was cute. No one talks about it because it's not very memorable. But I do like the girls. Anita is gorgeous. I wish she was a love interest, but they all have their own little stories. But man, Anita, they always make the hottest characters our family. I could think of like 10 instances that has happened. This one isn't that bad. I remember it being kind of overhated. There's only 3 things going against it. 1, the MC. 2, I think it was written in first person, which none of us were used to. And 3, this fucking asshole. This book has an amazing love interest. I love this guy. Great love interest. He is too good for the MC. And then it also has a horrible love interest. And it wouldn't be so bad, but this guy gets a lot of screen time. However, all of the couples, except for, what the hell were their names? Hold on. I need to look at my trusty notebook. Yes. I did not care about Nora and Monica's relationship, but the other couples, especially like the zookeeper couple and the cosplay couple, they were all really cute. I would replay this just for Simon. I don't date a lot of the blonde male love interest, I realize, but like him, that's my boo. The concept and the designs and the ideas were really cool, but the execution is horrible. The main character is good. This is my main character. I love her. You'll be playing as her, and then the story will get kind of interesting, but then bam, out of nowhere, they make you play as one of your annoying ass siblings every time. Eos is cute. I like him more than Pax. He looks kind of like Hobby from The Walking Dead, the video game. But even then, he's still annoying, and every time you play as them, you just want to get back to the main character and her story. Or his story. There's so many love interests because, there's 3 main characters. I do like some of them, but there's not enough time to flesh them all out or make any of them really memorable. But the story is a mess and too many characters, too many plot lines and ideas, but it's still cool. I think they just need to rewrite it, re-release the whole thing, because there is something there. Just make me understand it better. I remember when this came out, around November 2018 when Chapter 13 came out, this book went on hiatus, and Chapter 14 didn't come out until like March 2019. That shows a troubled and messy production. I'm shocked they didn't just cancel the whole thing. Some of us were expecting them to. I would recommend this just for the style and aesthetic alone. There's really no other book like it, but you probably will get annoyed playing it. Also, I love Bee. Bee is a great sidekick. So, when this was coming out, I thought it was going to be your boyfriend or girlfriend. You guys were together, and then for some reason they die. And then again, for some reason, you can see them when they're a ghost, and it's just like really sad. But this was fine. This was fine. You play a medium who meets a ghost, and you try to help him figure out how he died, and then you guys fall in love. I don't like single love interest stories. This is a story where there's only one love interest, but this is one of the few I don't really mind. However, the dynamic is very repetitive. A very serious, work hard main character with a laid back, funny-ish, flirtatious love interest. I wish their personalities were a little different, but I feel like you do begin to care about their relationship. It is meaningful by the end. Both endings are good. It is one of the more unique concepts for these types of single love interest romance stories, because there is also a bit of mystery behind it. This is another case of it not being that bad. It is a single love interest story, which kind of knocks it down. However, the main character is very annoying, and the story will piss you off, especially for the love interest. The love interest, though, Jack, this is the guy I usually choose, and he looks incredible. He's hot. Anyway, I like the love interest, and I feel bad for him or her. And he's sweet, but like not in a cookie cutter way. He makes mistakes, but he's still a good person. And he's too fucking good for you. This MC sucked. And the story was frustrating. However, overall, it was cute though. This is so fabulous. It's a bit forgettable due to its plot. It's like Platinum, but with clothes instead of singing. And the love interests are fine. The girls are sidelined completely for the guys, though, even though they're really pretty. But I don't mind the guys, but this is a cool play. You'll probably want to spend diamonds on it and the clothes because they're just so cool and beautiful. It is such a guilty pleasure. Becca paved the way for Poppy. The MC can be quite bland and annoying. She's the Gabriella to Becca's Sharpay. In the first book, James is the best love interest by far. Chris was annoying as shit. He was totally forced upon you. Even if you choose not to kiss him or hook up with him, the story acts like you did. And Caitlin is just, ew. But as time went on, James became boring, and Chris was actually really cool. He had one of the best developments and was one of the better love interests by the end. I usually romance him or Becca, who came out of nowhere along with those bangs, or Zig. Man, Zig is so hot. Us girlies went crazy when Zig showed up. Choosing between him and Chris is very hard. I don't understand why this got like 8 sequels and 7 side stories. It does drag on a little too long, but it's great for diamond farming. The junior did feel a little different with the mystery element. They actually let us hook up with the villain, but the whole thing was so shallow and the MC is very dumb. I think Sebastian could have become a love interest. I'm still shocked at how bad at communication the MC is. But these stories, they can be simple but frustrating. Since most of the characters can be a little childish, Zach is still a cool best friend. If you didn't like this back then, you probably won't like it now, but it can take you back to a simple time. I actually kind of like this spinoff. I remember making my mom read it to make her brain work because she didn't like reading, but she really needed to do something. Rest in peace, Mom. So it's a little nostalgic. I remember playing chapter 1, and at the very beginning, the vibe reminded me of It Lives Beneath. And then these two kings showed up. Oh, I was so happy. I wish Kristen was a love interest. If you don't romance Nick, then his big, leaving, dramatic, sad scene can be a little awkward. My love interest was Cal. I loved him in Bloodbound, and when he arm wrestled Jax, and he was like, please don't ask if werewolves go into heat. I'm assuming they do because he didn't want to answer it. Some of the monster designs are really cool. I also wish Ivy was a love interest. She had a cool-ass design. This book seems like it was supposed to have a sequel, but they knew that it wouldn't get a sequel because I don't think it was successful enough. So they threw everything that was supposed to be in the sequel here. So it's kind of a jumbled mess by the end. Like everything in the kitchen sink thrown at it. It does feel like 2 books in one. I wish this girl was a love interest. She was one of the most interesting characters. But it's just frustrating that a bunch of these shitty romances get sequels, but stories like this that really do need a sequel to make the first book better don't.
This is probably the only time in Choices history I got sensory overload. It knows what it knows what it is. It's very campy and in a way very unique. I didn't get to finish it, but I did hear Poppy became an official love interest, and yes, we love our queen. Fun fact. So this main character's last name is Hughes. You cannot change the last name, and my real last name is Hughes. So my feelings were kind of hurt because the main character is supposed to be really dorky. Everything about her dorky. Like, what does this story have against the last name Hughes? I mean, I'll be changing my last name one day, but that doesn't get rid of the fact that my real last name is Hughes. My name is Rachel, but that's not my real name. So this is like the only story ever I actually use my real name. But anyway, this is like Mean Girls on crack. That's the best way I can put it. Yeah, I remember like halfway through, none of us really knew who any of the love interests were except for the Professor Ian/Ina. And they're okay, but I don't romance them, so I was like, who the hell am I going to romance? I cannot believe a few of these people were just flings and not love interest. This girl should have been a love interest. But again, it's very unique for that. This is one of the few stories where the female love interest outweigh the male, and you could just straight up not have a male love interest if you make Ian Ina.
Halfway through, I already guessed who the killer was. It's well written, but it's kind of stale. The vibe is if Knives Out met Red Carpet Diaries. There's too many filler scenes, but all the love interests are okay, they're good. And so is the victim, Nick. With the little time we had with him, you can tell he cares about his friends, and you want to find his killer. I kind of wish we had the chance to romance him for one scene before he died, where him and MC admit they kind of like each other, since Lord knows him and his girlfriend didn't. Cheating is never okay despite the justifications for it. The aesthetic is cool, but it can be a little underwhelming. I was really hyped when this came out. And it was good, it was no Veil of Secrets. Most Wanted is one of the 3 original books when Choices came out, and it was my least favorite out of the 3. I don't think it's bad. I just didn't like it as much as others, but I can acknowledge that a lot of people loved it. But even I liked The Freshman more. But Pixelberry did its fans dirty. The Freshman got like 14 sequels, and The Crown and the Flame got 2, and now a remaster. But Most Wanted, they teased a sequel for years, like Hero, and then they just announced that they canceled it. I miss Dave. I really liked Dave. He was hot. I didn't like Sam, though. She was pretty annoying, and her hair looks like a mop. There is no true love interest, though. I think they were going to go for a Crown and the Flame thing, where the 2 main characters can either romance each other or other characters. But again, then they canceled it. What happened to Haley Rose? We'll never know. I did like the villains, though, but it just can't crack its way into the top 10. It is a shame that the cover and the title look like this, because it could easily be mistaken for Shipwrecked or Ship of Dreams. Shipwrecked wasn't that bad, but Ship of Dreams, ew. Distant Shores is good, though. It is a fun adventure pirate book. I think it's very underrated. I really liked all the love interest and the characters. They were fun. It was going to get a sequel, but it got canceled in favor of those shitty romance stories. The ending was a bit disappointing, and I didn't like the time travel aspect. And with a lot of these Choices stories, they always start off good, but then they feel rushed by the middle or the end because they always have to meet a deadline. If they would just take their time, but they never can, ever. But Distant Shores is really good, though. My love interest was Oliver. He's another blonde boy that came out around this time, but I actually dated him, unlike a lot of others. Again, Shipwrecked isn't bad, but Distant Shores is better. And again, it's certainly not Ship of Dreams. Ew. One of the stories that was amazing when it came out, but it's kind of hard to read now. All of the love interests are either kind of bland or not great people, but I still somehow like all of them except for Tisha. The other 4 I romance, but Seth is my main love interest. I think he releases the dopamine chemicals in my head the most, and it's nice to get away from all the drama in book 1 to hang out with him. So he is a breath of fresh air until book 2. I don't think Victoria would have become a love interest if she wasn't hot. That one scene where she assaulted MC was so hated and got so much backlash that it was actually rewritten. I sometimes romance Thomas, and it's cool for all the Hollywood U fans to romance him, but I do find him kind of overrated. They completely dropped the plot line in book 2 to cater to Comet Thomas. I understand that Chris is married, probably to the Hollywood UMC, but I understand he couldn't be a love interest. But Addison, they teased it and then dropped her. There was no excuse when they gave Thomas the moon. I'd have dropped them all for Addison, except for maybe Seth. The group of friends don't feel like friends, they just feel like work acquaintances. In the first book, Seth is the only one that actually feels like your friend, but it's an entertaining story, but you need diamonds to really enjoy it. It's one of the few stories where all of the love interests, except for Tedja, are all hot, because it's Hollywood. But if you like fame or celebrity stories, check this one out. Book 3 does kind of suck, though. Red Carpet Diaries can be kind of hard to read because the MC is kind of likable. I like the MC. And a lot of the time, it just feels like she's being bullied. I guess it's trying to get across that Hollywood is tough, because it's true, Hollywood is tough. But when it's coming from the love interest, no, absolutely not. Matt is probably the nicest. He's the golden boy, but Seth, I forgive Seth the most. Everyone else should be used to the stress of Hollywood, and he wasn't, because he was also a rising star. So his frustrations, they weren't the most justified, but they were the most understandable. I did take his side in his fights with Tedja, whatever. I don't like her. Replace her with Addison. Since I have not read The Royal Romance and I can't talk about it, consider it an extension of Rules of Engagement, since The Royal Romance is actually a spin-off of it. If you love The Royal Romance, you can thank this guy for it. In fact, I think he's hotter than Liam. There, I said it. I think this was the 4th ever Choices story. The main character is meh, and the story, especially after the aunt shows up, it's very soap opera-y and very unbelievable, but it and all the siblings and the characters are very fun. The douchebag, gold-digging, cheating ex-fiancé was a better villain than the aunt. I like almost all of the love interest. Fun fact, I think this is the only straight main character. She's the only one without a female love interest. I like planning the wedding and all the choices for it in book 3. All 3 guys are cool. I usually go for Leo, but I've also chosen Dean before. I think he's the best for her, and as much as I like Leo, he seems so disinterested in book 3. Like he wants to call off the wedding, but doesn't want to screw her out of her inheritance or break her heart. If you're curious about what I name everyone, Rachel, my name, Robert, Kelly, Margaret, Lisa, Travis, Leon, Leo with an added N because I'm so creative, Dean, I kept Dean as Dean, and Caroline. Oh, and Isaac. I like playing as Kelly, the party girl sister, the most, and I dislike playing as Margaret, the smart sister, the most. I choose Blake for Kelly, he brings the best out of her, and I don't dislike Elena, but I wish the brother had another love interest. If I ever read The Royal Romance and I like it, consider its place here instead of Rules of Engagement. It is the 2nd best vampire book, and I think there's only like 3 or 4. The main character isn't bad, she's just kind of a people pleaser, and is kind of self-righteous, but not bad. I think mine is so cute. I really like the 2 love interests. At first I went for Cass, but I did like Gabe, and the reveal that Gabe was a vampire I think was actually really well done. I was shocked, and it's kind of hard to shock me in these games. But at the very end, you can choose to be in a poly relationship with them. I don't think I've ever seen that. What it usually is the main character can date multiple different people, and her main love interest will be like, I'm okay if you're in an open relationship. You can have sex with whoever, but I'll be loyal to you. That's just not really realistic. But here, I think it's a straight up, the 3 of them are together, but Cass and Gabe are a little reluctant. Anyway, I went with that option. I kind of wish this is how the Vampire Diaries did it, even though Damon and Stefan are brothers. Team Stefan, I'm a rare bunch. But this does feel like Choice's version of the Vampire Diaries, while Bitten, I guess, feels more like Twilight. I don't know, but this is better than Bitten. The plot, I suppose, can be kind of basic, but at least there's something. There's so many stories I read where I'm like, where's the plot? When does it start? Why is it so boring? But this one wasn't really boring. Also, I really like Loon. He is the only reason why I want to read Villainous Valentine, but I can't because it's VIP only. The main character does have more agency than the main character in Bloodbound. It's kind of hard to explain, but she feels more useful and independent. I like how they made the vampires completely different to Bloodbound, so it does feel like they're two different worlds. However, I wouldn't have been against if they made the vampires the same, so they were in the same world. I like thinking that all of Choices is in the same world. And that means we could have gotten Bloodbound cameos. The ending to book 1 can be a little rushed and wonky. Also, I'm kind of glad they just turned the main character into a vampire at the very end, rather than waiting 3 whole books like Bloodbound. Overall, though, it's a solid series. If you like vampires, check this out.
This is one of Choice's most underrated stories. The MC is very funny. I like the MC. She can read minds. And it's such a cool concept, but I don't think they utilize it to its fullest potential. Because a big chunk of the story, almost all of it, is just her wanting to become a great journalist. She is the journalist that'll do whatever it takes to get its scoop, and her reading minds really helps her. If you take out the mind reading, it could almost be the same story. I wanted to do like amazing superhero, read anyone and everyone's thoughts kind of thing. And she does sometimes, but she's mostly focused on her career and how it will help her with her career. They could have done more with it if there were sequels, but no. The good books don't get sequels, they get standalones. Anyway, all 3 love interests are good or okay. Anna, when this was coming out, the girl love interests were usually still paywalled. So Anna got really good screen time and romance options for the time. Aubrey, or is it Audrey or Aubrey? I think it's Aubrey. Anyway, he's kind of the main love interest. He's like he's one of those blonde ones that was coming out at the time. He's not my love interest. I find him a little boring, but he's very nice. If you like him, you like him. My favorite is Jamie. He's my favorite love interest. I'd probably even put him in my top 20. Maybe 30? Anyway, I really like Jamie, though. He's the first one you tell that you can read minds because you're his childhood friends. Like, immediately, she's like, hey, I can read minds. And he's very supportive. He even supports her while he's thinking. And he's like, hey, can you read my mind? You got this. I am really shocked they let us sleep with Ellen. This is when, like, they were just starting out their MC can sleep with anyone and everyone, but they're not going to be real love interest kind of thing. She's also a pretty good character. The boss, Alec, he was a good jerk boss. I just wish they had just made him Martin from Love Hacks. Just name him Martin and be like, I used to work here, but now I work here, and it would have been fine. The main villain was so predictable. I didn't like the main villain. I was really hoping they would go a different route other than, like, evil politician. But everything else is great. The emus, love the emus. Emus. I remember when this was coming out, I was mostly excited about the emus because I was like, whoa, look at that cover. Emus. The adoptable pets are great because she could even read animals' minds. And the pets are so sassy. The dad kind of sucked. That's the thing with the parents in these stories. They are hit or miss. But yeah, this was good.
I found the reveal of the killer a little underwhelming, but god damn, I love Gabby, one of the prettiest ladies ever. I wanted to date her, but her twin brother was my love interest. All the love interests are good and fleshed out. Donovan technically started out as one of those rude love interests, but this one is so justified since his twin sister just died. I wanted to screw almost every character in this, especially Perdita's boyfriend. I wish there was a sequel about Perdita and what happened to her. I was really into the side plot with the teacher and him being a red herring. That was good. But the tone in this feels the same the whole story, even in the third act, which is supposed to be dramatic. In a final showdown, like, it just felt so muted. One thing that bothers the shit out of me is that the male MC faces are from high school story class act, but the female faces are not. Why? They're from Ride or Die, I think. Maybe I wanted to reuse a female face from Class Act. God damn. I just want to reuse my high school story female face. That's it. This is my prettiest MC ever. Anyway, this came out when Choices was mostly just dropping romance story after romance story, so I appreciate anything with murder and mystery because there's really not a lot.
Reading this is torture. Like, Dakota is such a good love interest, and we all knew how it was going to end, so you're playing it, and you're just dreading it, hoping it won't happen, but it does happen. I like all of the Dakota designs, too. Like, I think, like, 5 of them, I really struggled choosing what I wanted him/her to look like. I cannot believe Choices actually had the balls to release a book like this and actually kill off the love interest and not have a diamond scene of like, oh, save the love interest. This does feel like their version of a John Green story. The very end, I think, has one of the better depictions of grief. Like, they don't focus long on the grief, and that's okay. But with what little of it there is, it's kind of realistic. As someone who's like lost a lot of people in their life, I found it relatable. This starts off really good. The killer design is cool, and the story does a good job at making you suspect your friends. But in hindsight, the killer does have a lot of plot armor, and despite being crazy, the motives don't make a lot of sense, and there are a lot of plot holes. I didn't mind the killer reveal. I thought it was one of the better killer reveals out of the three mystery murders I've been talking about. But the endings are kind of meh. I feel bad for people who you know what with the killer. They must have felt so betrayed, but like I'm glad Pixelberry went there. They did it.
Desire and Decorum, when I first played this many years ago, I didn't know how to say Decorum. So I said Desire and Decrum. Decrum. Desire and Decrum, I usually don't like period pieces, any type of media where they're set way back when. It's usually hard for me to get into it, but sometimes I do, and I did find this one very engaging, great love interest, and a Class A great douchebag villain, and a decent main character. Ernest was a very popular love interest at the time, and he still holds up. He's a very nice love interest. He does fall into the one who's a dick to you at first, but still, we love him. I wish we had more time with the dad before he passed away. I really did like Edmund, and I usually have him end up with our friend Blair. Was her name Blair? And most of the outfits are very pretty. This was a good gender lock story. The gender lock stories are only okay to be gender lock if it makes sense to the story, and this is one of them. Annabelle is a queen, and the grandma I could have used less time with. I'm sure this was boring to some, which is why I like the Duke, because he makes every scene he's in entertaining. But if you also don't really like period pieces, I would recommend checking this one out as your first one in Choices, because it does set the standard. I did like the plot with the half brother in the third book, but I did not like the brother's side plot with Teresa. That felt kind of forced. It seems like the story just felt bad for her and wanted to give her a happy ending. It just felt like the story was like, oh, we have these two single characters, let's just put them together so Teresa can be a part of the family. Big Sky Country. This is a perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover. This came out during Choice's golden era, before all the smut. But now, if you saw the cover, you would think it was one of these more recent smutty stories. But it's not. It's so sweet and wholesome. The barn scene where Sawyer and his brother clean up the barn is so cute. One of my favorites. I was not expecting Sawyer to have a blonde mane. I thought he'd have a full head of brunette hair. Juliet is so pretty. She's a little cinnamon bun. The scene where you help Dallas get his package from the post office and then you guys eat cookies together is one of my favorite Diamond scenes. And Asha is paywall to hell and back. I love Brooklyn. The feuding families and then like the heads of the families kind of like getting it on and liking each other was a bit cliche and a little too much for me, but it was cute. It was really cute. The main character is just so lucky finding these people. Her car breaks down and then suddenly she has a brand new life, to put it simply. And you can't play as a guy in this. A lot of these romance smut stories, it's mostly gender locked, but not this one. Being a fan of this while the episodes were coming out weekly, especially in book 2, was so frustrating. They mishandled a lot of the characters and plot lines, but it was still really fun, especially book 1. Vince is so over pushed as a villain in book 2. He'd just be standing there and MC and others would hate on him. He would breathe and they'd be like, I hate this motherfucker. I don't want him to die. That being said, he was a good villain. I cannot believe they didn't let us have a one-night stand with him. Him and the main character would have hate fucked the shit out of each other. I also can't believe they didn't let us have a one-night stand with someone in the jury house. Also, the jury house was so fun, much more fun than the main house. My greatest achievement is getting Lena, I don't know, is getting her in the ally status before you have the option to talk to all of the other allies. I'm sorry, talk to all of the other contestants to get them to be your allies. That must be why Ryder it already likes you when you get to the house rather than being neutral like everyone else. They mistreated Bianca and Slater big time in book 2. If you're sad Bianca became a love interest over Tegan, or if you're weirded out that we can randomly marry Bianca or Slater at the end of book 3 and just drop our fiance for them, you can blame me. I was a part of that group that was raising hell at them being disrespected and them disrespecting our wishes. Bianca won the poll of who they wanted to return in book 2, and they wrote Slater to be a love interest, but they just gave up on him despite him being very interesting in how he played the game. It has a fun group of characters, and it's very frustrating seeing them just drop them in order to keep the love interest around longer. Like, we all knew Derek, Mackenzie, and Adam were somehow going to make it to the final 5 in book 2 again despite not wanting them to. But I'm still grateful that they did listen to fans and gave them the option to marry Bianca and Slater if they wanted to, despite their romances being a little underdeveloped. The main 4 love interests are fine, but a little boring. Jen is sweet, but I think she works better as a friend, especially since she's not a contestant, so you'll want to save your diamonds for the actual contestants so you can get allies. Derek's the odd one out. The other 2 you can choose their designs, and Jen is your producer, so Derek just feels so random. Like, it feels like, why him out of all of them? I always romance Handsome Stranger and I keep him as Adam, and then I feel terrible when I dump him at the altar for Slater or Bianca. Handsome Stranger is too good for me. I don't deserve him. I usually play as a guy named James. I usually name beautiful contestant Ava. I kind of wish Carson was a love interest. You bet your ass I did not have him and Ivy end up together. Carson was the only time I felt betrayed, and was also the only time I felt really stupid, because I told him about Ivy's cheating over Piper, and it turns out he was in on it all along. But he's not a bad guy, like a lot of the other villains. He felt bad and was not mean to you. He just hated Piper. And same, I hate Piper. It's entertaining seeing him try to run the show and fail miserably at it in book 2. You'll either laugh or you'll feel bad. He deserves both. Ivy was an okay villain. After it comes out that she is a traitor, her whole personality just shifts, and I don't like that. It's like, in my opinion, it was bad writing. She feigned innocent at first, but then the whole tone is just so weird. The landing just does not stick, and also, she was kind of predictable. She's a part of one of the worst diamond scenes of all time, where Pixelberry wanted you to spend like 30 diamonds to embarrass her and try to make her lose the challenge, I think, but she still wins and the other 2 lose. It was a horrible scene. One of the funniest scenes in the first book, and this series does have funny scenes. After the main character gets eliminated, Omar will ask you, how are you feeling after you've been eliminated? And you could say something like, honestly, a little horny. And then Omar's face is just so funny. That line alone is usually why I go the flirt route instead of the sweetheart route. Anyway, this was decent. Bianca was like love at first sight, though. This was the easiest choice ever. This was the hardest choice ever. This was also the hardest choice ever. But I always ended up going with Bianca. Bianca, probably my top 3 favorite love interest, female love interest. Like, you guys don't understand what I went through. For her, I was so loyal. I stuck it out to the end. And it was so worth it. The writers kept trying to get in the way. We had so many obstacles. That being said, from beginning to the end, my heart was with her. She's probably my 4th favorite female love interest, though, only because she is underdeveloped. Probably my favorite female character model, though. I think she's so pretty. We'll get to the others at the end of the video. It's just so funny. This was Pixelberry's sitcom style story, and it's very of the time. It's very 2016, 2017 humor style. It's very nostalgic, if you're into that. The main character can be annoying, but I like her going on all those dates with the different types of men. It was funny, and Mark, I like Mark, but he can also be annoying, so they're kind of made for each other. Ben is an absolute sweetie. They screwed over Leah so hard, it's disgusting. Brooke should have been a love interest, or she at least should have been with Mark. I wasn't a fan of her getting married so quickly in the second book. They also should have let us romance Isabel. I will die on that hill. Cole is one of my favorite characters ever in Choices. He carries this series on his back sometimes. He was the best character in this. You will not regret reading Love Hacks because of Cole. Horatio is gorgeous in a realistic way. We love him. We love our unproblematic, never angry king. He should have ended up with Parker. Or us. I even liked Evan, the first guy you meet, and the main character just does not like him. It's just so fun and lighthearted. I go back to this every once in a while because it's just so freaking good. I think the first book was better than the second book, but still, they both hold up. This one should have been longer. It's only 6 chapters, and it and the story and the characters would have really benefited if it was a little longer because it is underdeveloped due to its short runtime. But once again, there's a tone and a vibe to this story that has never come close to it. This story taught me what the word melancholy means, and that's what it is. It's very melancholic and sad, but it's also very classy and beautiful. And the ghost fight between the mom and the brother was badass. Very cool designs. Even the main character, this model has never been reused, but they're all so pretty. This also came out during a time where female love interests were always paywalled. You had to pay diamonds to romance the girls, and the main love interest was always a guy. But then here's Eleanor. She is the main love interest. You don't need diamonds to romance her. In fact, the male love interest, Victor, is way underdeveloped and barely in it compared to Eleanor. She is the most fleshed out character. It's supposed to be this lesbian romance. This is one that I think should get a freaking remake and make it longer. Because all the kids were so sweet and just so heartbreaking, but once again, they're just not really developed. But if you want a really short, simple read, check this one out. Eleanor was our original ghost love interest. We love her. However, she is very moody. There's a certain point in the story where it feels unjustified. The main character did nothing wrong, and Eleanor is just so mad all day. And that's like the one thing going against Eleanor. That being said, she has a lot on her plate. And deep down, I think even she knew she was taking it out on the main character for nothing. At a certain point in the story, you help Clarissa write a poem to her crush, Edmund. And I have no clue what year the kids passed away. But in Desire and Decorum, that story takes place in 1816, and I like to think that her crush was Edmund. So if he had mentioned something about how 10 or 15 years prior he knew this family who passed away, boom, it would have been perfection. Okay, I am doing this part without a script because I just thought of something. Okay, the very last chapter, you have the choice to let Eleanor go to heaven with her siblings or spend diamonds and let her become alive again, and she'll be at college with you living a normal life. Both are good endings, but most people probably chose the first ending because it's the very last chapter, so there's no point in spending diamonds on the very last chapter. Okay, here's the thing though. The other ending where she becomes alive again and gets to live with you, that could have had a sequel because first of all, she is from a completely different era, and also, all 3 of her siblings who she's lived with forever are now gone. So a sequel where she is adapting to new life in a new modern era, and also having to live without her siblings for the first time, and probably feeling guilty that she got a second chance at life, but they didn't. Why did they go to heaven and not her? Why is she getting a second opportunity and not them? Because all of their lives were stolen. That would have been really good. I would grieve with her because she would be grieving the loss of her siblings. And I like the siblings. I would be grieving with her. I'd be like, I want them back too. They deserve second options too. They didn't get to grow up. Choices. Release it. Platinum is Red Carpet Diaries, but about singing instead of acting. The songs are great. I'm in love with The Liar. I still listen to that. This came out during Choice's golden era, and it's still loved, but it's not really talked about. Around this time, there were a lot of blonde male love interests, but damn near no blonde female love interests, so you bet your ass I went with the female Avery, who reminded me of Addison. I always choose male Raleigh. He's super hot, and they're both well-written, great love interest. Shane started out as a great love interest. He's the forgotten love interest here, but He turned out quite whiny by the end and was a part of the MC's contrived downfall. Fame did not change her, like he said. I kind of wish this had gotten a series like Red Carpet Diaries and that Jaden became a love interest. Most of the standalones are either bad or should have gotten a sequel, and this is the latter. So if you want an easy, non-overwhelmingly needed of keys read, check this one out. Zombies. It's great. I kind of wish they'd make another zombie book, but where it takes place on the day of the outbreak. This one takes place like 10 or 20 years in, so everyone's used to it. It's post-apocalyptic. But the zombies do feel like they become more of a background, an accessory, which happens with a lot of zombie stories where maybe we, the humans, are the real monsters takes over. So at certain points, the zombies don't even feel a part of the plot. But they are, and they're cool, and it has great action scenes, and all 4 love interests are good. I only romanced 3 of them, though, specifically this guy, because one of the love interests, she feels so childlike that I feel like she works better as a friend. This came out when Choices was slowly exiting its golden era and was mostly focusing on these romance stories, so it was special, and it still is. There's not another real zombie story, so it is very unique. This one was really well written. I'm so sad it didn't get a sequel because I believe the head writer stopped working for Choices. It has so many choices and like different routes the story will go, yet it's still so cohesive compared to a lot of other Choices stories. I like all of the main love interests, even though Cassis can be a little annoying sometimes. I remember thinking he was cute at first, but now that I'm older and wiser, he has iPhone face. I know a guy who looks so much like this. Syphax was my original love interest, and probably in my heart is my endgame. He's the only one that really feels like he fights for you. He fights to be with you. Sabina is just so cute, and Mark Antony, oh my god. Us girlies went crazy for Mark Antony. He was such a good, cool character. He makes the story so much better. The choices you make do affect your main character's moral compass. Mark Antony is like a perfect embodiment of a morally gray love interest too. This is one of the stories that has really good replay value. Not a lot of them have a lot of replay value. The character switching was also really well done compared to Across the Void, which also was coming out around the same time, I think. You got a freaking aneurysm there. It was very horribly executed in Across the Void, but here you get enough time as the main character and you don't get whiplash from it. And it does switch to your family at the right times. This is another story that has really good pacing. Again, I think I've mentioned this a few times. A bunch of these stories are really bad at pacing. The top of my head, the only good one is Veil of Secrets, and I'll put this right up there with Veil of Secrets in terms of good pacing. But I mentioned a few times that a lot of female love interests are paywalled. Sabina is paywalled to hell. The female to male ratio of love interest is 3-1. And you must pay if you want to be with her. But Syphax is also kind of paywalled. But I guess it does make sense for the story and the time it's set in. The brother is a bit underused. I think he's one of those characters that was supposed to be more prominent in a sequel, but it never got a sequel. The brother is hot. I like the brother. It is very historically inaccurate. If you're big into that, it might bother you, but overall it's well written. The plot does get a bit incomprehensible at times, but it's still good though. I like the MC. I feel bad for the MC. This is just one of those stories where it's a woman in a man's world and men suck, except for Syphax. I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. That's just how I've said it since I was 18. So, actually, no, 16. I was 16 when I played this. I'm not big into period pieces. I think I've mentioned that. And I don't think it's perfect. I wouldn't even give it a 9, but I would give it a solid 7 or 8. Mark Antony is very interestingly written. He will treat you differently depending on if you romance him or not. You guys know what Mark Antony doing the thumbs up reminded me? In my opinion, I think Cleopatra is the most well-known figure of this era. They actually let us hook up with her and Caesar in a threesome. When I first played this, I didn't know Cleopatra was going to be in the story, so my dumbass named my main character Cleo, but now I just name her Chloe in honor of the old name Cleo. Also, this blonde hairstyle right here
This is the only time and the only face that this hair has ever looked good on. Every other main character face in every other book, this blonde hair looks like shit. This hair was made for this face, and it looks good.
When this came out, it was the new Crown and Flame, and at times it does kind of feel like a Crown and Flame ripoff. I really like the leveling up system though, and the main character and all of the love interest. I was with Mal, but when Aaron, I think his name is Areen, when he became a real love interest, I got with him, and then I felt terrible. I'm sorry, Mal. It's fun meeting the new characters and getting them to join your party. I read that some people struggled to connect with the characters, but I liked most of them. It's a very well-written adventure. It's not my favorite, but it was one of the best of its era. This was one of my favorite interactions, as well with Tyrell saying he would bet his sock. You can get very immersed into the world, though. And I am still mad that there has never been a mermaid story yet. They should make a story about mermaids. I've been saying it for years.
Oh, hero, we had such high hopes for you, as high in the sky that you fly in. It's a great standalone book, but the ending feels unsatisfying because it was supposed to have a sequel that they teased for years, but then finally grew some balls and admitted that it was never coming, so stop clinging on to hope. If they canceled it because of the art style, which was too expensive, Endless Summer had 2 sequels. I wish Poppy was a love interest. She was a great friend and she has a gorgeous model, but that side plot with her and Dax liking each other was horrible. They are so immature, and Poppy belongs with us. But it's okay. We have Eva. I like Eva. I like all 3 of the love interests actually, but I always choose Eva. If she had a regular model, I think she would look like Lena or Sonia. This is one of the few books where I exclusively play as a guy, and as much as I love Eva, I would drop her in a second for Caleb. I think it was teased that he was going to become a love interest in the second book, but that never happened. But if you like superheroes or comic books, I would recommend checking this one out. It's really cool to look at and play. I like the style.
I wanted to romance Caleb so bad. Why won't they make a second one and let me romance Caleb? They were going to. It was like set to be released and then they canceled it. And then I was like, I'm not going to be able to romance Caleb.
Caleb is my ultimate boo who was never really my boo. My ultimate, I wish he was a love interest. I have a type. I'm going to be honest, book 2 was not as good as book 1. It was kind of rushed, but overall, this series is choices at one of its peaks. I think this is one of the only books that lets you choose if you're into men, women, both, or neither. And whatever you choose, the love interest will treat you differently depending on what you choose. Shira deserved better. She's one of my favorite characters in love interest, but her plot lines were kind of weak. This story has some of the best world building and fantasy elements and a very chaotic villain. I haven't gotten to read or finish book 3 yet, but I still can't believe they actually released book 3. That thing was canceled for a while. It does feel kind of like a Harry Potter knockoff a lot, but I kind of like this main set of characters more than the Harry Potter characters. I kind of wish certain characters were love interests, but what we got is good. I like Beckett and Griffin. Aster, she has a good side plot line if you romance her. The pacing is off. That seems to be an issue with a lot of the action and adventure stories. I think Veil of Secrets is the only one to get it right. I forgot to mention Veil of Secrets has good pacing. So this story, it can get kind of slow, especially at the beginning, and kind of fizzle in the middle, but it's not bad. But it doesn't have a lot of replay value, but the designs and the story were great. It's not perfect, but it is one of Choice's best. Now that I am older, I can understand and acknowledge that the writing in Veil of Secrets doesn't hold up. The story is great, but the writing has a lot of flaws. But most of us still like this book. It's an OG mystery book that has a certain vibe to it. The newer mystery books just can't capture the vibe. I would recommend reading this just for the vibe. The characters are good, especially Naomi, and the weakest love interest, Grant, is also good. But Flynn O'Malley had a chokehold on us back in the day.
He isn't on the cover, so I was expecting the other two love interests to show up. So when he showed up, I was like, oh, who is this? He is so cute. He is also in my top 3 favorite male love interests. But Kate, this poor girl, a huge damsel in distress, everything bad happens to her and you have to do everything for her, but she still is likable. If you romance someone else, especially her brother, just to drop their ass at the end to romance and be with Kate, you are unpredictable, loyal to her, and also very, very patient. They dropped the ball with Scarlet. She could have been redeemed and possibly be a love interest and be a much better character, a gorgeous hair and face model. But yeah, Kate gets kidnapped on her wedding day and her cheating fiance is murdered and the cops suck and it's just great. It's a good time. What a cool ass story, but to this day, who the hell is that on the cover? That being said, this was one of the first times a male MC was on the cover. I'm still pissed off that Sonia never wore this dress that's on the cover in the story though. It would have been beautiful. Sonia is one of my favorite female love interests and probably top 10 overall. It's cool getting to play as like this mastermind criminal and it has a lot of replay value. You'll want to replay this 1 or 2 times to get different heist members to see the different interactions. This book gave you the option if you wanted 2 male and 2 female love interests or 1 male and 3 female, which was unheard of at the time. My first time playing this, I accidentally created an all-male team, except for Aaron. My bad, everyone. Fabian and Tilly have opposite personalities, but they also share a lot of the same dialogue, so it's really just giving you the choice of who do you think is hotter. Tilly is pretty and adorable, but she looked too much like Poison Ivy to me, and Fabian was sexy, so I chose Fabian. I chose Uppercut Jones because I like the gentle giant and I thought Lena was kind of annoying, so I didn't want to spend 30 diamonds on her. I chose Anton over Blackbird because I wanted to give him a shot and I thought he was so cute. I wanted him to be a love interest. And I liked Sybil and her weirdness, but I chose Niles because he is Anton's dad and they didn't get along. So he was the only 30 diamonds I shelled out for this the first time because I wanted to see his and Anton's interactions. And they were good. Plus, he is a DILF. And then I chose Peter, who I think looks like the guy on the cover. I chose him over Miranda because I like the way he worked and I wish he was also a love interest and I didn't want to shell out 30 diamonds for Miranda's storyline. Plus, I just didn't feel a connection to her. But yeah, this story actually gives you so many choices that do affect the story. If you have a low score at the end, the characters will get bad endings. It's so sad. I remember in chapter 1, they should have done a crown and the flame thing where if you have enough points, you can use them over diamonds. You not picking the right options could have been punishment at this point, but nope, they were greedy. I usually play as a guy here. Trey. This is Trey, everyone. Sonia is a nice slow-burned romance, and Ansel is such a good chicken shit villain. He looks like Chicken Little, and he has such a punchable face. We could have had a quick fling. They're fine with letting us hook up with the villains now, but back then, it was too scandalous. But this still holds up as one of their coolest, most replayable stories, though. I almost felt like a Grand Theft Auto character. Remember the jewelry store heist? That's what this game felt like. Next on the list is Perfect Match. Okay, so I should say now that Bloodbound and Camila will be talked about later, but I will be talking about Camila a little bit here to avoid confusion, but onto the plot. In Perfect Match, you go to this company, Eros, to find your perfect match. They set you up with Hayden, who is perfect, but they turn out to be a robot, as does your cousin Nadia's perfect match, Steve. He was also a robot who was acting weird. All the perfect matches at Eros that they set people up with are robots. The gang finds out, they go on a cross-country road trip to escape from them and also expose the evil company for their treatment of the robots. I'm downplaying it, but it's a good story. I think it's been remade into the one. I don't know if I'll read that. Anyway, the characters, most of them, are good. Hayden, I always choose the blonde and rename her Sarah. She looks like a Sarah, but Hayden is so perfect that for most players, they fell kind of flat and was a little boring, and a lot of us gravitated towards the sarcastic private investigator, Damien. we need to talk about the cultural reset that Damien was in the Choices fandom. He's almost on the same level as Drake Walker. To all the new players, like at least the ones who started playing after 2020, 2021, you guys don't understand how popular Damien and Camila were just for their sex scenes alone. Everyone in the fandom talked about their sex scenes. They shook the fandom to its core. Damien at one point was known as the horniest and kinkiest guy in the entire game. And those scenes would be considered tame now, but back in my day, because I'm quote unquote old, Choices wasn't known for smut. All the sex scenes were very tame. They were all the same. They were simple. They were like, I release myself with ecstasy, then they fade into black. But then Damien, who, by the way, his book was before Bloodbound. Damien came before Camila. He came out saying shit like, bite me, bend over, moan my name. I think at one point he said the word squirming in public. Him and Camila really did lay down the groundwork for the future, so we can thank and blame them for what we have now. But it was never vulgar, because it didn't need to be vulgar. It was, like, still charming. Also, every book had a 30 diamond sex scene with a love interest at the end, but Alana, in book 2, just be nice to her and flirt with her, and at the very end, you can take her to the airport and you guys can confess your love to each other. It's free and it's so beautiful. Like, it's such a good scene. She didn't need a 30 diamond sex scene, like, because she just has so much class. But it was such good writing. And Cecil is actually a really good villain. Back then, I didn't know how to pronounce her name, so I called her Celsi. Celsi was a good villain. Dames was a tragic but small character. His ending scene was also a beautiful scene. That whole plot line was spoiled for me, so at the end of book 1, I did not have sex with Damien on the Eiffel Tower because I knew that wasn't the real Damien, so I wanted to avoid the awkwardness that would come in book 2. Also, Damien often falls into the sarcastic asshole love interest trope who's mean to the main character, and I hate that. He is sarcastic, but he's not mean. He is never mean to you guys. Him and the main character are buddies. He's not disrespectful or brooding like other asshole love interest characters like Drake Walker. But Perfect Match does hold up. It was a good story and I would still replay it. I think I replayed it not too long ago. I still don't like the faces for the main character though. A lot of the faces from the old games just look off. But it's fine. It's not too distracting to the rest of the story or the characters. Not even 5 minutes into this and you're already cutting some random ass woman up on the waiting room floor. The third book wasn't as good. I think it had different writers, so it was a little lame. But the first 2 books, perfection. I remember when this came out, people were so hyped, and they had every right to be. The 3 male love interests were all great and well written. I found it very hard to choose between the 3 of them. Jackie sucked though. I did not like her. Kira should have been a real love interest instead of her. However, the story does have its favorites. Ethan is a great love interest, but if you don't romance him, then you're going to be spending a lot of time with your boss, and he can be weird and a creep, or a dick sometimes if you don't romance him. If you romance one of the more ignored love interests, then it's going to be a hard and unfair time. It's very uneven overall. We are very lucky this did not come out now, or else it would be a single love interest story with only Ethan as the love interest. However, I like almost all of the characters. I think Esme should have been a love interest, or Annie, our first patient, anyone but Jackie. I remember a scene in the second book when the main character is poisoned. Meanwhile, Bryce is doing an open heart surgery on Kira, and when he finds out while he's doing it on Kira, it's just so well written and so sad, and it actually made me emotional, and there's a ton of little scenes like that throughout the whole series. Also, a lot of the diamond choices do feel worth it. That's kind of rare to me, to be honest. Lots of times I buy one and then I'm like, wow, that kind of sucked. But that didn't really happen a lot in Open Heart. Overall, though, a great story. You can have a threesome with Jackie and Bryce, though, and that's the only time I sleep with Jackie. In the first book, and sometimes the second book, the story gives you the choice on if you want to hang out with Jackie or Bryce. And, like, thank God. You know, your girl always chose Bryce. I will never forgive this story for giving us these ugly ass
MC faces. It was fine the first time, and then the second time, but then it happened again, and again, and again, and again. I never want to see these faces again.
This is one of the original books that were just really horny. Everyone was so horny without it just being smut, though. This had the first ever threesome in Choices, though, with Jax and Lily. Again, we were all shook. This is one of the few books where I really like all of the love interests. Lily, to me, does work better as a friend. I think she's the weakest love interest, but I didn't really like her in book 1, but she really picked up steam in book 2. But I really do struggle to choose from Adrian, Camilla, and Jax. And there is also a threesome between Jax and Adrian.
You know what that means? DP. Get it, MC?
And that Jax and Adrian are bisexual. Yeah, going into this, I didn't realize Jax would be down for anything. The sex scenes back then felt so earned. Anyway, this series had some great villains too. Also, Priya, what a gorgeous character. I wish they had made her a real love interest. They give you the option to sleep with her in your mind where she kills you at the end. I would have killed for a threesome with her and Camilla. Also, I really wanted a threesome between Camilla and Adrian too. That was the only one I really wanted, but I never got. But it's fine because MC can also sleep with Dracula. Like in the story, he is the real Dracula. It's insane. They should have just let us sleep with Liz while we were at it. I saved Liz, by the way. Anyway, for the longest time, MC felt so useless, a human among vampires. It was ridiculous. I just didn't think they would actually ever turn her, but then they did, and it was satisfying. Anyway, I mentioned Camilla earlier, and girl, the impact she had on we, the people, the fandom, will never be matched. I remember one time a straight woman posted how she accidentally chose her diamond scene over Adrian's, and she was really sad. But then by the end of the scene, she was like shook to her core. What's hilarious is after Adrian will sadly tell you about his dead wife and son, and then right after he could probably most likely hear you and Camilla having sex in the living room. And it's so messed up. Like they really were like, oh my god, that's so awful. Okay, bye. But Bloodbound has some of the best action scenes and fight scenes, and I think there's been a few other vampire stories, but I do think Bloodbound is the best vampire book. There is a reason why I got like 3 or 4 sequels and a spinoff. I don't really want to re-record what I just talked about, so let me reiterate. In book 1, you, Camilla, and Adrian are at this cabin, and you and Camilla listen to him talk about his backstory. His wife and son passed away, and it's really sad, and then at the end you have the choice to spend the night with her, him, or alone. And if you choose to sleep with Camilla, then Adrian, because he's a vampire and has good hearing, most likely heard you guys have sex in the living room. And it's really messed up, especially because Camilla knows Adrian likes the main character. That's what I mean by they were like, oh, that's so awful. We're gonna go have a girls' night. And that was her first sex scene, too. Adrian really heard Camilla making the main character beg. The Crown and the Flame, one of the OG stories and probably my favorite out of the 3. Kenna is a wonderful protagonist. For the longest time, she had the most love interests ever with 6. I'm still shocked that Teven was a love interest. That being said, Teven is the greatest, most valuable diamond choice of all time. Pixelberry made sure that very first diamond choice was worth it. That bitch lasted until the end of book 3. Also, in the very first chapter, Kenna can wear a nice dress purely by choice for free. And it actually affects the dialogue. Incredible. I like all of the love interests though, but I never romanced Dom. I prefer them as friends, and I prefer Dom with Sai. They kind of just forgot about Rose. In the first book, I much prefer Kenna's parts, so whenever I'm playing as Dom, it's fine, but I want to play as Kenna. I'm kind of ready for his part to be over and go back to Kenna's. Hers were much more interesting. This story was so good, it's been remastered for the new generation in a different art style, but I do prefer the OG. If you're curious about who I married, all of them. All of the villains are good too, and I also wanted to romance a bunch of the side characters. But the story is so good, and like I said, I think it's the best out of the original 3, and you should always appreciate where you came from
And Kenna in her wedding dress and hairstyle, it's one of the best in the whole series, and it's really satisfying because you went through 3 books of hell with her. And it pays off at the end being able to give her a happy ending. And the story comes to a full circle. At the start of book 1, Kenna and Dom are sparring, and at the end of book 3, they end with sparring. Also, the aesthetic is so steampunk. We are never going to get an aesthetic like this again. And again, it's one of those stories where saving certain characters really does feel worth it, like Teven and Rowan. Spending your diamonds on them does feel worth it, especially the wild bear. Can't stand killing him, even Raiden hated killing him. So I will be counting book 1 and book 2 because each have pros and cons that even each other out and make them equally good. Man, there will never be a horror vibe like this again. Especially the first book. There will never be a tone like this again. It was one of the first books I ever played, so the texting part with Dan at the beginning immediately caught my eye, and then all hell broke loose, like, immediately. And I wish Dan was a love interest. I also wish Noah was a love interest. I have a type. The foreshadowing with Noah is great. Your second time playing it, you'll realize how mad he gets whenever no one wants to go into the woods. When I first played the game, at the end, I sacrificed myself because that's just how I am. I highly recommend not doing that and let Noah sacrifice himself. He's happy that way. Everyone's happy. The first book is one of the few where I exclusively play as a guy. Look how cute he is. The female faces were so funny looking. And all of the love interests, they would never look like this now. So they all might be a little rough to look at or be weird models now, but that's why they're so charming. They look very unique. I romance almost all of them. I do wish Jocelyn was a love interest. I think it was hinted at the end of the second book that she would be a love interest in the third book, but they never made a third book. As for the second book, only Imogen is a weak love interest. Tom is so adorable and has some of the best scenes in the game, and when this came out, Danny was one of the best modern female love interests, but I usually go for Parker because he's so hot. Chapter 1, I was like, who is that? I want him. But the whole vibe isn't as good as the first books, but the story is. This series has some of the creepiest and best villains in the whole game. And the romances are never the main focus though. The horror, the story, and the power of friendship is. I forgot to mention this, but in book 1, Connor and Stacy are siblings. So if you start to romance Connor, Stacy becomes unavailable to romance, and vice versa. I can't think of another book where Choices did that. Now, I know that High School Story isn't the best Choices book, but it's really good, and it was my first Choices story. When I first downloaded the game, it gave me 3 options, and I think I chose High School Story, and when I saw the cover, I was like, wow, this is going to be awful, and then I started playing it, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And it's my favorite story. I get very nostalgic playing it. It's a very good read, and Michael was my first love. Michael is my favorite love interest in the entire series, and you don't even get a single sex scene with him because they're teenagers. Proving you don't need sex scenes to have a fantastic love interest who will be in your heart forever. Michael was not on the cover, so kind of like Flynn, I went into it completely blind to him, and when I first saw him, this is exactly what happened.
I love you.
I think you laid it on a teensy bit thick there, old pal.
I even like Class Act, especially Skylar. I play as a boy in Class Act, but in High School Story, I love the main character. She's probably one of my favorite main characters. Since they like reusing character models so much, why won't they let me reuse this character model? It's one of my favorites. I like all of the love interests, but they all work better as friends to me, especially Emma, sweet love interest. But if you romance her, and then when she asks you to homecoming, and if you say no to her, you are a monster. Aiden is a weird love interest. He's basically irrelevant if you don't take band, so I highly suggest taking band because he's such a big character but has such a small part if you don't take band. The original High School Story characters are in this game. Fun fact, I actually still have High School Story on my phone. I'm able to still play High School Story with a mod. However, I can't play Hollywood U anymore, which I'm really sad about, but at least I can play High School Story. But this High School Story is based off that High School Story, so it's really cool that the original characters are in it. I do kind of wish they were love interests, though. That would be a lot better, especially Wes. Wes was my original love interest in the original game, by the way. Fuck Autumn. I wish she had brown hair. Her hair is black here. I think it should be brown. And Mia looks old as shit, but everyone else is pretty spot on. That's exactly how I thought they would look. And these characters from old-ass High School Story from 2013 are making reappearances 12 years later because High School Story is getting a remaster just like The Crown and the Flame in a new anime style. And I'm glad that the new generation could be introduced to High School Story, but nothing will top the original. Nothing will top that Michael design. He is so hot. I love Michael, though. He still makes me flutter. I have a brother named Michael, so it's really weird, but Michael. But it was just a really consistent trilogy. A lot of the times when there's trilogy, usually the third book is the weakest. But I like the third book here. I liked Planning for Prom. I was prom queen and homecoming queen. Woo! And again, I like Class Act. Not as much as, High School Story, but Class Act held up. But High School Story is way better than the Freshman. I highly recommend High School Story over the Freshman. I'm getting sick of saying High School Story. Try saying it 10 times. If you excuse me, I'm going to go play the original High School Story because my progress had to reset because I had to reset my phone. Also, I really like the main character's dad. And we have a cute hamster. I name him Peanut. It's just a really good, feel-good, lighthearted story, you guys. And I'm usually not into sappy stuff. I never went to high school. I dropped out of school at like 14, and this almost made me wish I would go to high school, but then I would have been severely disappointed knowing that it was going to be nothing like this. I do wonder where the main character from the original High School Story is. However, she's probably married to Chris Winters, I assume. Chris Winters from Red Carpet Diaries, which was based off Hollywood U, which I cannot believe we can't play Hollywood U anymore. I never got to finish it. Why was it on a server? Like, mods don't work on it. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going off like this. I'm sorry. Pixelberry don't give a shit about us, dude. Yeah, anyway, High School Story. Really awesome. And High School Story was very special because it was the only story I would actively save up my diamonds for. There's multiple times in the story where I would stop playing, go to a different story, play a bunch of chapters to diamond farm, and then I would go back to High School Story and then to be able to buy those diamond choices. I almost never did that with a bunch of other stories, even like the important ones where you really want them, where you really want to. But I don't do that anymore because I have discovered mods. Some people might not like that, but I am not paying a company that no longer gives a shit about its readers. I know I randomly said, fuck Autumn. And if you want context, I don't like Autumn. I usually have her be single by the end of the story because she doesn't deserve Wes or Julian. Because fuck Autumn. I really thought I was going to get a boyfriend like Michael one day, and I still kind of hope I get a boyfriend like Michael one day, but I don't think I deserve a boyfriend like Michael one day. Should I just put this fucking story at number 1? I don't think I'm going to talk about number 1 as much as I'm talking about it now. No, I'm going to put this at number 2, because even though it's my favorite story, I objectively know it's not the best story in the franchise. Despite me talking about 40 stories on this list, before we get to number 1, let's talk about a few honorable mentions. Out of 40 freaking stories, they somehow didn't make it. Yet, I don't know if I would put them on a top 10 or 20 worst choices stories. I would have to make that list. But again, I don't want to read all of that. But I want to mention these without actually putting them in the top 40. Which are...
The Princess Swap was fine. Not bad, but they could have done a lot more with the concept. I don't think they embraced the craziness. It's just kind of 1, 2, 3 in my opinion. But once again, it's cute.
I believe this is a single love interest story for each girl, so each girl only has one love interest. And the main character, all 4 of the love interest designs for them are so cute, while the other one, I think they're okay. I played this when it came out, but barely remember it. I remember liking the love interest, but the story was kind of boring despite some really funny scenes. It's kind of in the royal romance world and lore, so kind of like a spin-off of it.
We all owe Ride or Die, a bad boy romance, an apology. This was like the first hated story. When it came out, people fucking hated this. They were like shitting on it, sending the writers death threats. And it's really not that bad. It came out during Choice's golden era, so it was the beginning of the end. That being said, it is the best of some of the worst stories. If you compare it to all of the smut stories, there is something so innocent about this one. And very endearing. The father is so sweet. The main best friend, I forgot her name, like Rhea. I hate her. One of the worst best friends. Logan is kind of annoying, but he's not that bad. I really wish we could have hooked up with Jason. Like, I remember when this was coming out, that was going to be like the saving grace, getting to romance Jason for whatever reason. We all knew he was going to be the villain. It was very, very predictable. That was another reason why this was hated. It was very predictable. My love interest was Colt. He kind of made the story worth it. I love you, Colt. People hated Logan, dude. Hated Logan. But at least it wasn't a single love interest story. If it came out today, it would be. And it would only be Logan. But we have Colt and Mona. Mona's okay. I don't love Loa. I don't love Mona, but I don't really like her either. The main character is a little annoying, but she's really not that bad compared to a lot of other main characters. She's only 18 years old, and she's been very sheltered, so she's getting out into real life for the first time. She's not a typical, shut up, dad, you don't even know him kind of main character. She feels bad for what she does, and she does love her dad. She just doesn't want him to worry because she knows he's overprotective, but she's gonna live her life. And again, Logan started off great, but then he got kind of annoying in like the middle of the story, but then by the end he was okay again. Whatever. I'm sorry, Ride or Die or Bad Boy Romance. If this came out now, it would be considered one of the better romances. The only other story that was hated as much as this one was Home for the Holidays. But that one was different. It came out because it was Choice's version of a Hallmark story, and it just did not land. But this one, people are like, oh, the end is coming, and yep, the end happened. But I don't understand why they didn't take the hate as a warning. They saw how much people hated this, and yet they kept releasing shit like this over and over to where it was getting worse each and every book. Why didn't they go, oh guys, we need to backpedal. The direction we're going isn't working. But no, they doubled down and were like, nope, we're gonna focus on Facebook moms. 100 chapters. Are you kidding me? This did not need to be that long. The story is okay. It's about a girl with 2 high school crushes. That's it. But it's cute. I like most of the characters except for the dad. The dad from Ride or Die, Bad Boy Romance puts this dad to shame. This dad sucks. And the childhood crush could be a little annoying at times, so I definitely don't pick him by the end. I usually pick the bad boy or the best friend. I usually name the best friend Brooke or Amber, and she kind of reminds me from Brooke from Love Hacks. I'll never forget you, Brooke. There's something very plastic about the story, though. Like, every single model and every single place is reused from another story, so there's something very fake about it. The dynamic between you with the 2 main love interests, I think, was duplicated better in maybe Immortal Desires. I think they did the 2 crushes who don't like each other but like you thing better there. You can actually end up with both of them by the end. So this was like a good layout for it. This is a good story to Diamond Farm. The chapters are very short, so you could just fly through them and get 3 diamonds by the end. But 100 chapters, seriously? I don't want to spend 99 keys, but I did. Well, actually, no, I was kind of like halfway through before I stopped playing Choices. Oops. Also, I don't understand why they didn't just make these 2 girls, Peyton and Sydney, and have everyone go to Oliver M. Berry High School. Like, that would have been really cool and make the story feel less copy and pasted and feel like it's more in the world of Choices. Not terrible, but we were all expecting better because Pixelberry sold this as a political thriller, but instead we got rich kid problems. You're supposed to play this as a gay romance, I'm pretty sure, but if you play as a male MC and a female Blaine, it's so awkward at times. Blaine does carry this. I really like all of the designs for him/her. And again, there's this one scene where your male, if you play as male, your male MC will get attacked by another man, and your female Blaine love interest will step in and attack the guy attacking you, and just, oh, it's traumatizing. They didn't think that one through all the way. I think that's why all of us got 2 separate books with the designated ways to play, the way they're supposed to be played. Anyway, though, it had aspects I liked. It just did not hold up. I think it's one of the more disappointing books because
The bad does outweigh the good, even though I liked the good. Endless Summer? More like
Total Drama Island!
this was choices at their peak. You can tell they put their heart and soul into this. I will admit, I do prefer the Lost vibe over the Avatar vibe. It seems like the writers wanted to get away from the Lost atmosphere as soon as possible, and I kind of zone out with all the time travel, but man, what a great group of characters. I wish we could romance Craig and Michelle. I also wish those two got together, but man, Craig going from hating you to being extremely close to you, at least for me, is so satisfying. I love all four of the love interests. I also wish Yvonne was one, but I'm sure you guys can guess who my love interest was. That's right, Jake, one of my favorite love interests ever. I'm pretty sure he was the fan favorite character when this came out. It's a very unique story. The diamond choices, even for a lot of the outfits, actually matter. Like, you kind of need them to see the full story. It does have some very funny scenes, especially if you cheat and do something that the main character is not supposed to know. This was the first story where you can actually play as a guy main character. This is my main character, though. And she and Jake look so hot together. This was the first book with the relationship score system, and it actually does matter. Characters will treat you differently and act differently at certain points of the story, except for Craig. So other characters will just straight up leave you to die, but Craig, he will still save your life, but he's just going to be super annoyed by it, rather than being super happy about it. I love this guy. But it's a story that feels worth it. I almost didn't play it back in 2019 because I didn't like the art style. But along with Hero, that's like the best part about it now. I would recommend this to everyone though. It's a mystery sci-fi with some romance. And I would think most Choices players, especially long-term Choices players, would all agree that this probably is their best story. I'm not sure if it's my favorite story. I already told you guys High School Story is my favorite story. But objectively, I do think this is their best. My top 3 favorite male love interests are, and if you were paying attention, you would know, are Michael, Damien, and Flynn, and also Jake is probably the 4th. And my top 3 favorite female love interests are Sonia, Eva, and Camila, and also Bianca, but again, not developed. However, love her. This is probably my favorite female design ever. In Choices, I think Bianca is the prettiest girl in Choices. Thus, is probably my main queen. I could see a similarity between the 4 of them and a few other girls on the list I like, so maybe I have a type, I don't know. I like all 3 of the male open heart love interests. Adrian, Jax, Zig, Chris, Becca, Poppy. I like all of the It Lives in the Woods love interests, but my first time playing it, I did romance Stacy, so she kind of has a special place in my heart for her. Tom, and fine-ass Parker. Leo, despite him and the MC not really having a lot of chemistry, I still like Leo. And Dean. Dean has better chemistry with the MC. And oh, what the hell, Drake and Maxwell. Again, I like all of the Red Carpet Diaries love interests, but Seth is my main boo. Raleigh and Avery. Aaron, Mal, Cal, Cass, Mark Antony, Syphax, Annalise, Raiden, Devolos, and Divolos. Oh no, what the hell, Val, Teven, and Sai. Oh, and Will. Dom is for sure bisexual. Jamie, Colt, the bad boy, who I usually name Noah, and the best friend, again, Amber or Brooke. I'm not sure if Dave counts. Kenna doesn't count, so I don't know if Dave counts. Troy, Shira, Beckett, Ernest, Annabelle, Jack, Simon, Slater, and Adam. Sometimes Jen, Fabian, and Tilly. We did not talk about them, but I actually do like Nick and Wyatt from Home from the Holidays, even though I don't like the book. Mark and Ben. Donovan. Didn't talk about them, but Marissa and Ahmed. I know a guy who looks a lot like him, actually. Zeke, but I prefer him with Eos and not the main character. I think he's like the only love interest that can romance a set of siblings. Sol and Meridian. Alana, Hugh. Maria is usually my second love interest in High School Story. In Class Act, it's usually Sky, then AJ, then Rory, even though I like Rory, just not as much as the other 2, but I like all 6 of the designs for him/her. Let's talk about the characters that I wish were love interest. If you were paying attention, you would know who my number 1 is.
I would give up every single character in Love Interest except for Michael for this guy, which is Caleb. I would make a man out of this man. Caleb is my ultimate boo who was never really my boo. I think Caleb, Michael, and Bianca are the prettiest characters and choices if I could only choose 3. And that is saying a lot because I like a lot of these character models. And I didn't even include Damien in the top 3, which is a lot, which is really big because he is way too hot for our MC. No offense to the MC. But I think the reason why is because they've kind of watered him down because they have reused his model and a few other love interests look more like him and it's like pissing me off. But yeah, I guess the top 5 hottest characters to me would be Michael, Caleb, Bianca, Damien, and then maybe a tie between Priya and Flynn. I have already talked about this, but Craig and Michelle, Yvonne, Seraphine, Liv, Priya, Lena, Vince. They let us have sex with Ivy, so why not Vince? Fatima, Poppy, Kiana, Peyton, Julian, Wes, Dan, Noah, Addison, Persephone, Adder, Whitlock, even though he's too young if he was older, Brooklyn if she was older, Anton if he was older, Peter, Ansel, Perdita's boyfriend, Gabby, Horatio, Cole, Brooke, Isabel, Ivy, Kristen, Jason, Evan, Nick, Francis, this Everett, Edmund, Duke Richards, don't judge me, Kira, Esme, Annie, Scarlett, and honestly Angelina, and Zeph, even though I respect his feelings.
Oh, and Chris Winter.
And I guess Ryan, Cassandra, and Alyssa, they don't really count.
And honestly, Ben, Jocelyn, and Cody, along with Brittany, I think It Lives in the Woods had the best set of bully characters. They were actually aggressive, but I liked them.
And again, I did like all 3 of the Deadliest Game main romance characters. Well, thank you all so much for watching, especially if you finished the whole thing. I really appreciate it. I bet I can't believe you did that. Thank you, the Brick Collector 5419. You gave me motivation to do another video like this. I will consider you my first fan whenever I'm famous. I don't know if that'll happen, but I appreciate you. Again, I don't know if I'll do another video like this, but if I do, it'll just be of something I want to talk about. I might just go back to uploading those love stories I was talking about. Not Choices, because Choices is so popular. Lots of people do it before me. So I'll stick to the more obscure ones I want to play. Like, I can do that porn star one from Scripps I was talking about, with the diamond choices included. I was gobsmacked when I first read it. I had only ever read Choices an episode, and it was my second story on Scripps I read. I was way too young. Like, I will actually have to do an age restriction for it, probably. Well, bye!